Chances are you've been in a position where you just had a really big meal and then a dessert is served and you feel like you need to absolutely have it to satisfy your sweet tooth, because God forbid you miss out on an opportunity to satisfy that sweet tooth. It's called dessert FOMO. In today's video, I'm going to explain to you how to handle these situations without overindulging and without feeling that FOMO. Let's just say that this video is going to teach you how to have your cake and eat it too. Let me start by sharing a little background story with y'all. When I was 19 years old, I moved out. There was a lot of talk about body image and dieting around the adults that I was surrounded by in my house. Someone was always on a diet and nobody seemed to love their body. I think that goes for a lot of you. When I moved out, I finally had a chance to experiment with food. I cooked and baked everything you can imagine, but I especially fell in love with baking cheesecakes. I made just about every cheesecake you can think of. I mean, Oreo, Reese's Pieces, all of them. I made a cake for every one of my friends' birthdays. And I tasted them all, duh. What I also did was make a calorie count, tallying all the calories for each ingredient in the cake, so that I could know exactly how many calories were in each slice of cake. I kept this information to myself, of course, and I'm not sure if this habit came from the food blogs or the Weight Watchers mentality that was just ingrained in my brain, but it's something that I was doing. During that time, I was also incorporating fitness into my life regularly. It's only then where I realized how much I had learned to obsess over calories. Over the years, I learned to undo the mindset of I'm exercising in order to burn off the calories. Instead, I adopted the mentality of I'm eating because I enjoy food and it actually fuels me. I work out because it gives me energy, makes me stronger, and it'll improve my mental health. Let me teach you just how I did this. Number one, do not get too caught up in the calories. My obsession with calories was an unhealthy one. And while I can admit that having a basic understanding of nutrition and calorie counting is important, it's not healthy to obsess over them. Don't give them so much power. Instead of telling yourself this slice of cake is 500 calories, I should avoid it, try this. A slice of cake is not the most nutrient-dense food, fine. But I really enjoy cheesecake. So instead of not having it at all, I might have half a portion of that cheesecake at the end of my meal, and during my meal, have less of the white bread maybe that comes at the beginning. What is this exactly? It's mindful eating. So it's understanding that simple sugars do not provide the same kind of energy to us as do complex carbs like high fiber beans and vegetables. There is room for all the things that we enjoy, just in moderation. Here's a real life example of how to implement this. You're out for supper and you order a chicken salad which comes with bread and butter at the entree, and your waiter comes offering you if you'd like to order alcohol with that. Be conscious of your calories early on so that you can look forward to indulging later on the more pleasure foods. The second thing that you should be doing instead of going on a diet is stop skipping your meals. The number one sabotage to all my clients or patients' attempts at healthy eating often is their late night binging or mindless eating. And what's the number one culprit to that? Under eating throughout the entire day. I know. Unbelievable that eating less all day is your biggest problem, but it really is. People aren't getting this. It's not about holding back calories. It's about properly nourishing yourself so that you could sustain your energy throughout the day, and so that your body doesn't go into starvation mode and then indulge in mindless eating or eating ice cream or a bag of chips at the end of the day when you're absolutely starving. I get it, you're hungry, and when your body's starving, it craves those rapid acting sugars that give us the boost of energy, but not much else. And who needs extra energy at 10 p.m.? Point number 3 is, I read this once upon a time somewhere that 30% of hunger is actually just thirst in disguise. Now you can go and fact check that for me, but I have to agree that most people do not drink enough water. And if our minds are confused, rather than seeking water to actually hydrate ourselves, we're confusing that with hunger and just adding more calories. There is a major opportunity for you to be limiting calories, but in an almost intuitive way. Or I'll say physiological, because your body's actually giving you a cue. So here's what you could try. If it's been less than 3 hours since your last meal, rather than going and finding food, get yourself a big glass of water, fill it, drink it, and then once you're done drinking your glass of water, ask yourself, am I still hungry? If the answer is yes, knock yourself out. Go serve yourself some food. But if the answer is no, then get back to work and worry about your next meal when it's time. The definition of diet is the following: restricting yourself to a small amount of calories or a special type of food. What if we didn't actually have to restrict ourselves, but instead eat with an abundance mindset? Abundance is quite literally the opposite of restricting. It's the idea of adding to, filling your cup. So here's my 4th piece of advice. Instead of subtracting from your meal, add to it. A perfect example is on a Sunday morning when I choose to eat a buttery croissant. I don't know about you, but I love the taste of a flaky, crispy croissant. Rather than just having my croissant with a coffee, I try to pair it most of the time with something more satiating like cottage cheese, Greek yogurt, or even some eggs. I say this because if you just have the croissant alone, which often is fine, obviously, but if you do, then most likely you'll still be hungry 30 minutes later for more food. For the sake of this video, I'm gonna assume that your goal is to lose weight, but in a healthy and sustainable way. Adding a protein source makes this buttery croissant, which is mostly composed of fat and carbs, a more complete meal. I know it's a tough thing to wrap your head around, like why would I want more food if I'm actually trying to lose weight? But this is why. It's because it's more intentional, a more mindful way of eating. We're not just eating for pleasure, we're also eating for purpose. And that's the difference between someone who eats to live versus someone who lives to eat. I mean, I'd say I fall somewhere in between. I absolutely love my daily desserts, but I also fuel my body in a way that shows it that I actually respect it, that I love it. Like, it's not just a trash can that could be thrown junk at, like processed sugars or saturated fats. While those foods can't be seen as the enemy, they're also not what make up the majority of a healthy diet. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is have a mindful approach to what you eat. All calories are not created equally. It's time you stop comparing apples to steaks. What do I mean? You've been told time and time again that weight loss is calories in, calories out. And while that's partially true, that is not the full story. The calories that come from a loaded cheeseburger are not the same as those that come from a loaded quinoa, chickpea, kale salad, for example. If you have difficulty understanding the basics of nutrition, I taught a lot about this in my masterclass, which I'll link in the description below, titled Nutrition 101, and basically the art of nourishing yourself like you love it. Until then, let me know in the comments below what you want to hear more of, because you are your greatest investment, and I'm here to help you reach your best life possible.